Welcome to the High-Tech Investments News Report for week 17. The news report covers some of the many investments projects High-Tech Investments is currently involved in so you can follow our progress. We hope you will enjoy this news feed and look forward to your comments and remarks.
Hi, Bo here, and welcome back to this week's news report, where once again it is time to have a look back in our portfolio, in our trading platforms, to see how this particular week has gone. And I can tell you we're pretty much back to normal at the moment. Normal meaning that all the EAs are cashing in. They're doing quite nicely. But obviously there's more to it than that as usual. Our drawdowns on all the EAs are also looking a lot better. And obviously we also have a new EA that we actually shared with you last week on the news report channel in here. And that one is the grid trading EA. It's the simple grid trading robot that we have here. Is a generation 3. We have actually set up a website here now also. So if you go into hightechinvestment.com, you will actually find that particular page under the portfolio description in here. You click on it and then you start getting a lot more details and information on this particular EA already. Also some of the results as usual. Similar, we are sharing the weekly, and later on we will also share the monthly results. It's a bit too early for that yet. And obviously we're going to also go in and have a look what Expert Forex has. There's a special competition in here, so definitely you need to know about that one. And also we have another EA, which is the same actually video in here, explaining you also from the past week what is actually working, what can actually be doubled. And we are talking about some of the same new EAs in here. Very, very exciting stuff. And there might be even more coming shortly. So we're going to start off as usual here with Yieldnodes. We're already logged in on our website. And clearly there's nothing new, nothing's changed. The order coin reserves, when we hit that particular one, we get in and actually we compare last week with this week. We can see that there's a few more numbers. So it looks like total coins owned by Yieldnodes and its participators has gone up. And we can also see that it has been updated. But again, there is no change in the masternodes running in here. The numbers are still the same, both if you look for the PNY, the SAP, and any of the other ones. 777 here also comes in exactly the same way. And also on the coin value itself here, there's not really a big change here either. This is where we left it last week at the red circle in here. Since then, there has only been a few buys and some sells in here. Again, it doesn't really move the coin price anything. It is at rock bottom. The only thing that's not at rock bottom is actually the staking. And as you see, we did quite well in February, March. For the SAP coin itself, for April, it's not so good. We can also notice that prior every single time here, we seems to be going down every week here. Last week, we had staking coming in at 101.15. Now it's at 98.35 every single time. And that means that we got about 3,279 SAP in here, which is down from about 10% from prior weeks in here, down to 3.3. So that has certainly slowed down. But we are getting very, very close to the $100,000 mark. But again, it doesn't really matter too much if the value of the coin is never going to rise again. But for the PNY, that seems to be going better and better. Still tracking in at 133 PNY every single time we do the staking in here. So that meant that for this particular week here, we got 9,709 PNY. We got 11% for the week overall. So that's a very good development for this particular coin in here. And if we go and have a look at Bitcoin versus USDT, last week we left it at around 87,500. So it had a bit of a hike up back here. Since then, it actually tracked quite well and managed to get all the way up here to 96,000 again. Currently trading sideways, depending on, I guess, what's going to happen with the world trades and everything else. At the moment, it certainly has recovered quite a bit. And currently at 94,692 as we are doing this particular video in here. So Bitcoin price has gone up nicely since then. But we're going to have a look at our EAs and the Wave Liberator. So the best currency pairs in here that you can add into your portfolio. So that is what we are showing you. And the Great British Pound Swiss francs is actually coming in on top with $44, 4.4%. And then the New Zealand Swiss francs right after at $43, 4.3%. Aussie Japanese, $39, 3.9%, and then Euro Swiss francs, $32, 3.2%, and then Swiss francs Japanese, $29, 2.9% overall. If you have put those 5 EAs in your portfolio in the past week, you would have made up $188 or 3.8%. So very good and very stable results again. So nice to see that the profits are back. And if we have a look at the entire portfolio in here, nice and smooth curve all the way through. This was still from IG demo accounts in here back in August, where there was a bit of a mess up. Since then, you can see things are going well. We have 22 accounts of $10,000 each. Floating profit and loss is actually very low with minus 9,000 at the moment. And closed profits is more than 41,000, so looking good. Monthly returns is still around 11% on $1,000 accounts, which is all the accounts are actually set up for, and weekly returns around 3, so that's good. Trade win 68, still tracking quite nicely with trades per day around 14, and we have 615 days where we have now traded this particular EA, and that's also why when you go on our website, you can find all of these on the coupling service. Every single one of them is actually on here, so you can design exactly the same portfolio as I've just shown you in here. If we have a look at the individual numbers to see how much we actually cashed in, it's 425. That's versus 513 the week before. And then obviously the major week in here a couple of weeks ago, 1102. But when we look overall, 425 is a pretty good average. You can see there's a few down in 200, even 192, and then up in 700s for most of the time otherwise. So 425 is a very good average, and that's also because the market is a bit in limbo here at the moment. RSI was not in limbo for this particular week. We had very poor results last week, but this week the top 5 looks very, very strong. It's topped off with the Great British Japanese pound in here, $62, 6.2%. We have the EuroCAD at $44, 4.4%, followed by the Aussie USD with $41, 4.1%, and then Great British Pounds USD, $34, 3.4%, and then Euro USD, $33, 3.3%. And overall, if you put that into your portfolio, trade that, you can see a very good average of $214, 4.3% is what we had last week. Hopefully it will be even better next week again. So also here we have some very good curves. We had a very steep rise, and then all of a sudden it slowed down a bit again. And last week was definitely one of them. Floating profit and loss is also down here, down to minus 12,200. Close profit is at 27,800. So doing quite well. Monthly profits still running around 10% on $1,000 accounts, and with about 2 or maybe 2.5%. I guess it can't show that in FX Blue. And you have trade wins of 6%, so that's good and stable. Trades per day 18.5. And now we have more than 1 year of data also to show you on all these different currency pairs that we have. 384 days in here. And that's also why you'll find a lot of these signals for the copy link service in here. We're still missing a few. Hopefully now that everything is calming down again, we will be able to add them, so you can also get the entire portfolio in here. So let's have a look at the overall. 358 is what the portfolio made, and you can see compared to 142 the week before, that was a very slow week. Otherwise they had 2 good weeks here with 1555, 1167, but 358 we are also back to normal here on the RSI Liberator, so that's very, very good to know. All of these details you can obviously find here also on the High Tech Investment website. We mentioned this, you simply go on the website, you click portfolio, and then you get all these different EAs you can go and have a look at. And when we click the Hedged EA in here, we also get the portfolio suggestion with the top 5 performing EAs in here. So which is Euro USD at $51 or 5.1%. The other one is the Euro Swiss francs at $41 and 4.1%. We have EuroCAD $39, 3.9%, followed by US Swiss francs, $34, 3.4%, and then the Aussie USD, $29, 2.9%, and overall these top 5 EAs in here actually made $192 or 3.8%, and that again is a very good number for the Hedged EA. We're going to have a look at the entire portfolio in here also. For that one, we had the 16 accounts of $10,000, but it can be traded on $1,000 accounts, so which we also do with our own private money in here. Floating profit and loss is still high on the Hedged EA. It took a big hit on the drawdown here with 14,500, but it is still down from what we had in prior weeks. Monthly returns is quite high after we had this hiked up here. It's about 18%. So on the monthly return, and you saw some of the numbers in here, weekly returns is about 4% on $1,000 accounts. And it's also because the trade wins are actually above 70%. That definitely helps it. 22 trades per day in here. And then we have a history of 98 days overall. So getting very close to the 100 mark. And that's also why we'll make sure that we add more EAs into this particular one in here. You can see we only have a few at the moment. So we have to let the market come back. We also have to get the EAs back into reasonable drawdown. And the Hedge EA, for some reason, has slightly higher than the rest of them that we talked about here earlier. But it is cashing in here also quite nicely. You can see what we managed here, 343. Last week was higher with 457. But then again, compared to the 127, the 226, and so on and so on, again, I would call this maybe slightly below the average that we are used to. But that is the name of the game. The Forex market decides the profits at the end of the day. Now, I talked about earlier the new EA launch that we did, where the trading was made very simple. And again, this comes back to the simple grid trading EA, and actually for week 17 we have some very good numbers in here now. And if you put this together also in a portfolio, so then you'll see exactly the numbers you'll be able to get on a weekly basis as here, or later on we'll show you also on a monthly basis. But for now we only have this. So the US Swiss francs actually came in at a very staggering $74, 7.4%, which is pretty much good enough for an entire month normally. Euro CAD, $72, 7.2%. And then we have the CAD Swiss francs at $63, 6.3%. And then Great British Pounds, Swiss francs, $61, 6.1%. And then the Euro New Zealand down in $47, 4.7%. Still very good. Obviously more than 16 or 17% on a monthly basis. Total $316, 6.3% for this particular week is what these simple grid trading robots has actually done. So some very good news. And we also have the website up and running here now. So again, go to hightechinvestment.com, click on the portfolio, and then from here on, you will actually be able to follow all our trading. You will also drop to the bottom of the screen there when you scroll down, and you'll see the individual currency pairs, how well they're doing, the drawdowns, things like this, that will give you a better idea of how these particular EAs are actually trading. Now we also go in, and again, we have these 16 set up on $1,000 accounts. We actually have Black Bull accounts in here that can now do $1,000, so that is great. So we've set up that particular new accounts so that you don't have to transfer from $10,000 accounts down to one. So this here is straightforward. You can see the numbers, and the numbers should be good and right. At the end of the day, closed profits, floating profit and loss is a bit higher than the closed profits in here, but that's normal for any great trading robot. It takes a few weeks, sometimes even a few months, and from there on it just cashes in very, very nicely. Look at the monthly returns in here, 14% so far. Weekly returns is at 3.2, and a very high trade win so far, 86.9, so it's looking good. Trades per day is around 10, and we have a history of around 11 days so far. And you can see the graph is looking okay. And I will explain in a different video why this particular one here goes slightly down. It looks like a loss, but is simply the way the grid trader is actually cashing in, and if you're putting targets on it, you might see that particular type of session on the FX Blue graphs. So that's why we're going to have a look at the numbers itself. So the grid trading EA, and again, you can see on a daily basis, we don't have so much details here yet. It'll show up like this. And then there is a funny number in here, and we actually went back to EA Factory and Alex also to challenge these particular numbers in here to understand the EA, why it does what it does in here, and how that at the end of the day reflects. But that's for a different video. We also have the weekly profits, and you can see the portfolio overall. It's looking nice and profitable. 241 was last week. This week it's 546. Now we have all 16 up and running, and it is looking very, very nicely. So does the Lucky Trader. In here we have the top 5 EAs on our portfolio, and the US Swiss francs is on top with $60 and 6%. We have Euro Swiss francs at $45, 4.5%, and then we have Great British Pounds USD at $40 and 4% straight. New Zealand CAD came in at $36, 3.6%, with Euro USD $35, 3.5%. And if you again trade this entire portfolio, you'll end up at $216, 4.3% for the week. So again, we really like the Lucky Trader. We use a lot of these signals ourselves for all our live real money trading in here. Exactly the same settings as you'll find on the demo accounts is exactly the same settings that we're also using for our real live accounts, and it is working quite nicely. Now let's go and have a look at the entire portfolio. 16 EAs we have, and you can see the equity is actually in positive, so that is good to see. That also had a bit of a drawdown after the US hiccup in here. It is at minus 13,500 at the moment, hopefully still coming down. And the monthly returns is turning out to be about 14% on $1,000 accounts, 3% on a weekly, and with the trade wins very, very close to 70%. So it's looking good, 22 trades per day, and a history of almost half a year now. That's also why we have a lot of these on the coupling service, and we'll add more also in the coming weeks and months, of course. So you can basically mirror the entire portfolio in here and make the kind of money that I'm showing you right now. 395 is what the portfolio did in the past week, and that is if you have 16 accounts, all with $1,000 in there, so it's 16,000. You would have made almost 400 this particular week here. So again, we are looking at a reasonable average in here. If we go back and look at some of the prior basically weeks, we can see last week was also a bit better with 484. So we're slightly down, but if we compare it to the prior weeks in here, we are looking pretty good. And if we look even further back, we can see that almost around the 400 mark, that is still a very good average overall. Bell Trader is definitely struggling here at the moment, and that's also why we only have 4 again. It's not really closing. We have to come up with a new strategy for this one. We believe that what we had set up worked because we had some very, very good numbers, but all of a sudden after the hike here in US, the trade war and everything else, it seems to have been taken out of whack. So we have to rethink our strategy. It has a drawdown, of course, also that we're going to have a look at, but it's not really cashing in the way we wanted it to. However, the New Zealand Swiss francs certainly cashing in. It's the highest one of all the EAs, $199 or 19.9%. So that is already enough profits for 2 months. Then we have the Euro Swiss francs at $60 or 6%. We have the Great British Pounds CAD at $36 or 3.6%. And then the Aussie CAD coming down at $30, 3%. And there's no fifth one. Only 4 is actually closed trades in this particular week. So that is not really good enough here. So obviously the number itself cheating a bit with 326 because New Zealand Swiss francs did so well. Overall, the average is 8.1%. And that is obviously also very good. But we need all of the EAs to obviously cash in. And when we have a look at it, you can see the floating profit or loss actually skyrocketed during the trade war. It was very, very low before. We're very impressed with that, but still hasn't really worked out the way it should. Close profit is 7,000, which is quite nice. Monthly returns has also gone up to about 9% on $1,000 accounts. And you can see the trade wins are good with 70%, but we have very low trades per day, which is less than 10 here at the moment, and a history of 147 days. It is simply not cashing in well enough. As we said, there is a few, and those are also on the coupling service, and some of them are working out okay, but we need all of them to be pretty much in the same range, so there's more for us to do on this particular subject. So again, we did 325, as you saw here, for the entire portfolio. 256 was last week, so we are doing better. But we would like to get back to what is normal, is more roughly around the $400 to $600 mark, and then hopefully all of them will be able to chip in going forward. Now, I mentioned also here that Alex and Expert Forex, they have a couple of videos coming out in here, and there's a free entry for drawing where you can actually win a $25,000 trading account. There's a few things that you need to do in order to qualify for this particular one. So I'll make sure that the video is in the video description below, so you can go and click and figure out exactly what it is that you need to do if you are interested to get such an account in here. The other video that he have had here ready is the free trading robot, and here he's actually describing the simple grid trader. One of the accounts that he had in here has actually doubled already. Alex has traded these particular ones a bit longer than us. Obviously, he's the one that develops and tests them, so it is quite natural that he's a bit further on in the development than the rest of us that are just getting the EAs, getting to terms with them, getting them set up, as you can see, for a couple of weeks. Now we also have to cover again the copy link service, and again you can see some of the top signals of ours that we have in here. They're always ending on the C, and we are setting up the floating profit and loss. We don't want to see anything more than 300. We want to have a return on total drawdown of 200, and then total negative weeks in the last 8 weeks should not be more than $300. And you can also see that some of these numbers are extremely low. Again, all these numbers are taking off the equity, not on the balance in here. And then we set them up from high to low, and you can see that some of them have done extremely well, 56% down to 19. And obviously there is more that qualify, but they at the moment, because of the trade war in here, they might be slightly over the 300. A lot of them are in the 300, 400 mark, and obviously then they don't qualify at the moment for the way that we actually setting up these particular signals. So this is what we had for you in this week's news report. As you can see, the profit are still stable, the profit is still good, all the EAs are working quite nicely, drawdowns are down, and obviously everything is working out at the moment. We have also spent a lot of time, obviously, and effort for all these EAs to actually cash in week on week and without crashing any of the accounts. And the same thing should hopefully also go here again for the latest EA, so the simple grid trader. As you can see, the profits are quite good. We also done some back testing, and the drawdowns are very low, so I urge you to go in on our website, hightechinvestment.com, go to the portfolio here, and then look up the simple grid trader. That'll tell you all what you need to know about drawdowns, cashing in, and the different also currency pairs that you can find in here, which ones are the good ones, which are not so good. And then obviously if we come to generation 4 at the moment, which I understand from Alex that might happen in the next week or two, then definitely we will also share that news and information with you. So please give us a thumbs up and a comment below if there's something else that you want to see apart from what we have shown you here today. So hopefully I'll see you on my next video. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed our news report. So please don't forget to like and add your comment below, as we would love to get your feedback. But before you go, make sure you subscribe to the channel and don't forget to keep the notification bell turned on. That way you will never miss any of our future videos. We hope to see you back on this channel very soon.